The ACU football team heads to Cajun country looking for a second straight road win. I'm Hannah Null.
And I'm Grant Boone. We'll preview today's game with Nichols and welcome a couple of Wildcat seniors to the set. It's the Adam Dorrel Show, and it begins right now. Welcome to week 6 of the Adam Dorrel Show from the JMC Network studios on the campus of Abilene Christian University. I'm Grant Boone alongside the head coach of the ACU football Wildcats, Adam Dorrel. In just a moment, we will hear from Hannah Null. ACU football in Thibodaux, Louisiana this afternoon. Coach, you're coming off a game last Saturday night, a absolute defensive slugfest with McNeese, the top 2 defenses in the league. I heard you say after the game something that really struck me. We want to be a defense-first team. Yeah. And when you see a game like that, the way your team played defensively, what does it tell you about the prospects of your team?
Yeah, I think it signifies you're on the right path. And, you know, I know if you look at this institution last year, where they were at in the conference and then nationally compared to where we're at right now. Now, obviously, we still got a lot of football left to be played, but we're definitely trending in the way that we want to go. And there's a lot of positives you can gain from that because, you know, it's something I said when I was talking to folks about this job. To me, if you want to get to where you want to get eventually, and we're not there yet, and you want to have a chance to hold that ultimate prize, you've got to be great on defense, and that's what my past has told me. So I'm excited about what those guys are doing. They're doing a lot of great things.
Well, we'll talk more about that defense in just a second, but you got a game coming up today against the Nichols Colonels. Longest road trip of the year.
Yeah.
1,500 miles, 24 hours round trip. Are you a book guy, Netflix, Words with Friends? How do you pass
well,
the
you got
time?
that long, a little bit of everything.
I was gonna say.
A little bit of everything. No, it's, you know, I like getting away, and I think our kids kind of do too. We've kind of taken on that mantra of being road dogs, and we'll get on Thursday night. We're going to drive halfway, stop, and go from there. So.
Well, it should be a great game. Today we'll preview the game against Nichols in just a bit, but when we come back, highlights from that defensive duel at Wildcat Stadium last week. Stay with us. It's the Adam Dorrel Show. ACU and McNeese brought the top 2 defenses in the Southland Conference to Wildcat Stadium last Saturday night, and both lived up to the hype. With the highlights, here's Jonathan Raitz.
As expected, both defenses played lights out as the Cowboys allowed just 138 yards of total offense, and ACU held McNeese scoreless from the 5-minute mark in the second quarter on. The Cowboys started the opening drive strong with back-to-back gains from Parker Orgeron, but neither team could break into the scoring until late in the first. It was McNeese taking a 3-0 lead on a Gunnar Rayborn 32-yard field goal attempt, which capped off a 6-minute, 46-yard drive for the Cowboys. After a 3-and-out by the Wildcats, McNeese would capitalize on good field position. Less than a minute into the second quarter, James Tavery found Darius Crawley on a fade to the corner of the end zone, which he hauled in over the defender for the 22-yard touchdown and a 10-0 Cowboy advantage. But the ACU defense would stiffen up the rest of the way, and sophomore Deshaun Qualls would give the offense life with a 50-yard return on the ensuing kickoff. Set up with great field position, the Wildcats answered the McNeese State scoring drive with a 7-play, 45-yard drive of their own, capped off by junior quarterback Dallas Seeley's 16-yard scamper, faking everyone out on the read option. The touchdown cut the deficit to just 3 points at 10-7. McNeese put together another drive, but just as it looked like the Cowboys might regain a 2-possession lead, sophomore Adonis Davis broke up Tavery's pass intended for Kent Shelby and forced a field goal. Rayborn would connect on his second attempt of the night, this time from 27 yards out, and 13-7 would be the halftime score, and where it stayed for the remainder of the game. Both teams had chances in the second half, but each time either offense drove into its opponent's territory, stout defense forced a punt. ACU took its first 2 drives of the second half into McNeese territory, but each time the drive stalled short of field goal range. Despite the inability of both offenses to score any more points, the ACU defense turned it up in the second half, coming up with 3 3-and-outs thanks to 2 third-down sacks, several pass breakups, and a little motivation from defensive coordinator Tremaine Jackson. The The Wildcat defense allowed just 122 total yards of offense to the Cowboys in the second half. On the Cowboys' only red zone drive of the second half, the Wildcats held Justin Pratt short of the first down on 4th and 1 to give the offense the ball at its own 10-yard line. But ACU punted it back to McNeese just 3 plays later. The Wildcats did have a chance late as they held McNeese to a 4th down with 1:11 left in the game, but an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty gave the Cowboys a first down and they were able to run out the clock.
Okay, Jonathan, thanks. McNeese wins a game that went down to the wire. Final score 13-7. Coach, first possession of the game, McNeese is driving. You get a sack to force a 3rd and 5, and then you get your hands on the ball. Can't quite bring it in for the interception. It was only the first couple of minutes of the game, but that seemed to kind of start a trend. There were a lot of plays that were right
Real
there,
close.
Offensively and defensively for your team, weren't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something, you know, you're trying to, I think you got to talk about it in a positive way and not get it into the mindset of, hey, we're not making plays, because I certainly, especially on defense, didn't feel like that at all. I know, you know, football's a strange game and that ball bounces a lot of different ways, but, you know, we were really close in a lot of areas. You know, offensively, obviously, we were a little frustrated there with some of the communication issues we were having on the sideline. But, you know, we're going to get that fixed this week in practice and try to simplify some things and hopefully play at a higher speed and a higher level.
Well, Royce Moore's had a phenomenal year for you.
Yes.
He's been a great player, dropping down from safety to linebacker. Just one of those games where the ball seemed to be just that close to being big on each end of the field. So McNeese gets a field goal, then they get a touchdown. It's 10-0. On the ensuing drive, you get a 50-yard kickoff return, and then you go 7 plays, 45 yards. You cap it with a Dallas Seeley touchdown run of 16 yards. They hadn't given up many runs of more than 15 yards. I think 2 or 3 all season long. It seemed like a perfectly executed zone read by Dallas. When you have that play where the quarterback's got the ball in the running back's gut and he's got to make that split-second decision, why does that play work? Why does it fool a defense? And what has to happen in the quarterback's read for that to work?
Yeah, it happens really quick, so it takes a lot of reps. But you try to make it look, obviously, like you're running the inside zone play, and the tight end comes across the formation and whams the defensive end, and then you set him up, and instead of whamming him, he slips him a little bit. But it was perfectly executed, and you know, we went back and we tried to run it a few more times, and we didn't execute it very well. We didn't get the ball pulled a few times when we thought we should have, and so that's the stuff that you're disappointed in. But when you sit there and look, you go, man, we're close to doing a lot of good things, and now we got to go do it.
13-7 was the score going into halftime. In fact, they kicked a field goal with, 4-something, almost 5 minutes to go in the second quarter, and neither team scored the rest of the game. It wasn't without highlights. There were some hard hits, clean hits by both teams. When you look at this, was it more about the offense's failures or both teams' defenses really rising to the occasion, or maybe a combination?
Yeah, I think a combination. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from McNeese. So they're obviously a great football program, a great defensive program. You know, I think their head coach does a phenomenal job, and you know, they're one of the top defenses in the country. So, but there is certainly things that we felt like we could have done better from an execution standpoint.
When you go another game without a turnover, it's 8 quarters in a row, doesn't that make you feel like that you're kind of on the verge of something?
Yeah, that's what, it's hard. That was kind of a hard one to swallow, because again, it's that double-edged sword. I'm so proud of our players, because they just hung in there and played their tails off against a great football program, and we had opportunities to win. The flip side of that is like, man, we didn't turn. If you would have told me that we were only going to give up 13 points and not turn the football over offensively, I would have been really confident in the verbiage I would have been using as far as the winning and the losing. So, but again, it's just it's things we got to fix.
Even more impressive because McNeese is one of the best in the nation in taking the ball away. 4th and inches on the 10-yard line. They have a chance to kick a field goal, go up 9. I think with one of the best running teams in the conference, they're probably thinking we can get half a yard, and they didn't. Your team stuffed them. I mean, wasn't that an example?
Awesome play.
Even though they'd been on the field for nearly been out time of possession 2-1.
Yeah, and those are things, Grant, that you'll look back on at the end of the year, and plays like that are things that really bring confidence to a unit, to a football team. When you're making plays like that in a huge game at home against a top 25 team, those aren't little stops. And you may not be able to quantify that in a stat sheet, consistently, but from a confidence standpoint, what that does for a unit and a coaching staff and players, it's unbelievable.
Game ended in kind of a weird way. Jamar Mack was called for unsportsmanlike conduct after you had stopped them on third down. About a minute and change to go. You had a chance to maybe get the ball back on your 5, 10, 15, who knows. I know you can't comment on what you thought about the call, but can you tell us what the referees told you when they came over?
Yeah, they said at the end there was a play made, and he had gone up the sideline, and they deemed it as taunting, that he was taunting the crowd. And
at the end of the day, you didn't lose the game because of that play per se. It was just kind of the end of a night of some missed opportunities, wasn't it?
Absolutely. And, again, to end a game like that obviously is super frustrating. And it's something, regardless of what I said to our team, regardless of what really happened and, what was perceived, is something we all have to learn from, because you always have to be mindful of the team and, what your actions can be perceived as to an official, even if that wasn't the intention, so to speak. So, it's something we talked about, we learned from, and, we've moved on. That kid, he played a heck of a football game. He played hard, and he's done a lot of great things for us, and we believe in him, and it's just something we got to learn from.
You talk about loving each other.
That's
There's
right.
a good chance to love each other, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Well, ASU has a chance for a second consecutive road victory today against Nichols. We'll preview that game in just a bit, but when we come back, we will talk to a couple of ACU seniors about their experiences here at Wildcat Stadium. Stay with us on the Adam Dorrel Show.
Welcome back to the Adam Dorrel Show. Later on, we'll sit down with Optimist Sports Director Jonathan Raitz, ACU kicker, and ACU linebacker Nick Grau and Sam Denmark of the football team. But first, let's hear from Max Preston about the rest of the sports going on at ACU.
After a long break for the men and women's cross-country teams, both will head to Louisville, Kentucky for the NCAA Division I Pre-Nationals. The teams will run an EP Tom Sawyer State Park, and the men will run an 8-kilometer race while the women will run 6 kilometers. The women's team was ranked 6th in the region headed into this weekend, just behind Texas A&M. The volleyball team caps a 3-game road trip Saturday afternoon against Houston Baptist after 2 straight losses in Louisiana. The Wildcats' late comeback bid fell short in 5 sets to Nichols State. The game was moved up a day due to inclement weather on the coast of Louisiana. ACU, at 2-4 in the conference, takes on an HBU team that ranks 2nd in the conference at 6-1. The Huskies are ranked 1st in both blocking and hitting in the Southland, but the Wildcats are a close 2nd in blocks at 2.5%. Freshman Lauren McNeil and junior Lauren Walker ranked 4th and 5th respectively in blocking. The soccer team was on the road late Friday against Texas A&M Corpus Christi and won 2-1. Junior Dylan Owens scored 2 goals early in the first half, which proved to be enough as Corpus Christi could only manage 1 goal from freshman Kayla Gove late in the second half. The women are 6-7 overall and 4-2 in conference heading into Friday's matchup against McNeese State. The team will then travel to Lamar, ending in a 3-game road trip.
I think we're all ready for this weekend. It's obviously a big weekend, and we all want, to win conference, regular season, and to win conference tournament. So going into that with this mindset, I think makes it just a lot more competitive and a lot more fun.
Golf tees off in Herb Wimberley Intercollegiate this weekend for the final fall tournament. The team's best finish was a tie for 5th place at the Jim Rivers Intercollegiate. The Wildcats will compete in 5 more tournaments this spring. That's all for this week. For more stories and breaking news, you can go to acuoptimist.com and be sure to follow Optimist Sports on Twitter and Facebook for more. Until next time, I'm Max Preston.
Thanks, Max. Joining me in studio are middle linebacker Sam Denmark, kicker Nick Grau, and sports director Jonathan Raitz. Thanks for being here. In preparation for the show, we asked our Twitter followers to submit their questions, and we have a few for you today. So our first question comes in from Brian from Abilene, Texas. Playing a tough defense like McNeese really limits the offense. What kind of adjustments can the offense make when playing tough teams?
Well, when you're playing a team like McNeese, highly performed defense, they're recognized defensively. It's going to be a low-scoring game. It's going to be a defensive battle. It's going to come down to who makes the fewest mistakes. And Both offenses went out there and did a really good job of protecting the ball, and few turnovers and few penalties lead to a low-scoring game. It ended up just being a great defensive battle in the second half, and that's what we expected going into a game like that. You just got to go out there and battle as well as you can. There's not much a defensive player can say on the offensive aspect of it, but going into games like that, we know it's going to be a defensive battle, and we take a lot of pride in that, and so does McNeese, so we expected that.
And Sam, for you in the defense, you hear in baseball sometimes a pitcher, when they're pitching with a lead, it's a little bit easier, they're a little more relaxed. On the defense, does that play any effect if the team has a lead, or do you just go out there and do your thing?
We just go out there and try to play. The 2-12 is all about us. We're going to do our best job to set up the offense. We take a lot of pride in getting takeaways, in which we didn't do this past Saturday, to set up the offense, help them score. We have goals and standards that we set, and we know that we got to get the ball back as soon as possible to set them up.
Well, and for you, Nick, when in the kicking game, if the offense is in a flow, does that help you get in a flow, get going, get a rhythm?
Definitely. When the offense is moving down the field and we're scoring touchdowns or getting in field goal range, definitely allows more opportunities for us to score, and then the defense and now the whole team just kind of builds off that vibe and moves forward throughout the game.
So our next question comes in from John from Atlanta, Georgia. It says, Nick has been doing kickoffs this year. Is there any worry that the extra wear and tear might be hurting his back?
I'm not right now. After my surgery, I laid off of doing kickoffs, so I was only stuck with the field goal duties, and that really allowed my back to heal in a different way, because there's a different way you kick a ball for a kickoff than you would a field goal. But my back feels great right now, and I love doing kickoff, and it's something that I'm enjoying being able to do in my last season.
We've heard that turf at Wildcat Stadium is a little bit softer than Shotwell. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, in the kicking game, the turf is really long and kind of soft. So it took me about a good 3 weeks to kind of get used to that adjustment. And still till today, sometimes I go out there and it's just a little different than what I'm normally used to. But I've heard from other kickers in the conference that come and visit, when we talk about stuff like at halftime or at the end of the game, that they run into the same problems. But it's something that we could all overcome.
Do you still like kicking? Is it kind of like a home field advantage a little bit for you in the kicking game?
Yeah, it not only does that take play, but also having your fans there also makes it a lot better and easier to kick in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So our last question actually comes in from a friend of yours, Sam. David from Las Cruces, New Mexico says, the defense looks phenomenal. What changed from last year to boost this? Also, shout out to Sam Denmark and go Bulldogs.
Well, the biggest thing for our defense this year is just the energy that we bring to the field. Coach Jackson has been phenomenal from day one. He created and instilled in our minds a 2-12 mindset. That we know every single time we step on the field, we step out there with an energy and enthusiasm that's unmatchable. We got to take every single day and just improve. We look at some of the games we've had this season that have been great showings, but we always look to improve those and make them better. We're always striving to be perfect every single play. And it's great to have coaches, not even just Coach Jackson, but all of our assistant coaches, Coach J.B. Brown and the linebackers. He has us working day in and day out to improve ourselves, and we are so thankful for that.
Sam, you mentioned Coach Jackson's intensity, just enthusiasm. You yourself are a pretty enthusiastic player, so does that help, having that support from his enthusiasm?
Oh, it helps me a lot. Game day, it's easy to get hype and run around, go crazy, but when you show up on a Tuesday, a Wednesday, and a Thursday, and you've had class all day, you've had projects going on, and even days like today, it's just great to have a coach that's going to check you. They know what I can bring to the table every day, and they know that I can push even more. And they just continue to instill that in us. And
you mentioned that day-to-day routine. It's easy, like you said, with a new stadium, first year in Division I to get excited, but just day-to-day, how have you seen that kind of just transition into the enthusiasm of the team as a whole?
I think that all the players want to go to practice now. With this new stadium, we've kind of have like a new home. And you can find people spending the night over there, and where you were used to, where nobody would want to be up at the field, and kind of going to practice is a little bit of a drag. But now we've got a new home, new locker room, new players' lounge, and it's definitely something to take pride in.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing more of that enthusiasm today against Nichols. Thank you guys for being here. For Nick, Sam, and Jonathan, I'm Hannah Null, and we'll be back more with the Adam Dorrel Show.
As we welcome you back to the Adam Dorrel Show, take a look at today's Southland Conference schedule. Clint Koch takes his Stephen F. Austin Lumberjacks back to Conway, where he was head coach. For 14 seasons, Central Arkansas leads the league, the only unbeaten team in conference play at 3-0. Well, among the teams hot on UCA's heels in second place, in the Southland, the Nichols Colonels at 3-1 in conference play, 4-2 overall. This is the first ever meeting between ACU and Nichols, and this is a team, coach, in the last year. They've taken two SEC opponents, Georgia and Texas A&M, down to the wire. And this was a team that won one conference game in 4 years, and now in the last couple, they have become a real conference contender. You don't go down to SEC fields and have a chance to win without some really talented players, without a good scheme. When you look at them, especially defensively, what do you see in Nichols?
Yeah, just they're hard-nosed. They leverage football really well. They play with their hands. They do what great defenses do. They don't have to blitz to get pressure. They get it with 4 down. They're, you look at them and you think, well, simplistic, but again, to me, great defenses are simplistic. They line up, they have a couple coverages, a couple fronts, and they do it really well. But, you know, I watched one game, and then I watched the Texas A&M game, and it's unbelievable. They played so hard for so long, and their kids believed they were going to win that game, and they're doing a heck of a job down there.
When you're on defense, you're going to see another team like McNeese that's run first. They're 2-1 run to pass. But just when you creep up and stop the run, they'll go to Damien Jean-Pierre. He's got 25 yards per catch with 21 catches. He's a big play threat when you look at them offensively.
Yeah, he is, Grant. He's super dynamic in the fact that he's got great body control. If you look at some of those big plays, the way he's had to adjust to the football, not easy to do, and he's got such a great skill set because he can catch the short things and spin out and go, but he also has the ability. I think he's really good at reading coverage, and it looks like he adjusts a lot of his routes because him and the quarterback have really good chemistry.
Good challenge today for ACU. They'll take on the Nichols Colonels. It's a game that's going to begin at 3 o'clock. We'll have the radio broadcast for you beginning at 2:30 on 98.1 FM The Ticket and the ACU Sports Network. For Hannah Null and for Coach Dorrel, I'm Grant Boone. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the game. We'll see you right here next week on the Adam Dorrel Show.